Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Conversations, brought to you by Robbie's Hope Foundation. I am your host, Kari Eckert. Joining me today is Renee Middleton, Executive Director of Cheyenne Frontier Days Foundation, Executive Director of Cheyenne Frontier Days Foundation, and a registered nurse at Cheyenne Regional Medical Center. Renee has a part in the new Pick Up Man Suicide Awareness Initiative from the Cheyenne Frontier Days Foundation, which encourages everyone to be someone's pickup man, because we all have days where we could use some extra support. She is here today to talk about this inspiring message and why it's so important to be someone's pickup man. Renee, thank you for joining me today on Hopeful Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what does it mean to be a pickup man?
Well, a pickup man in the rodeo is all about helping those cowboys who get bucked off of a horse or bucked off of a bull, and the animal might be trying to stomp them into the ground. And so the cowboys, the pickup men, are the real cowboys, and they make sure that they're there instantaneously to get that cowboy or cowgirl up off the arena floor. And cowboy, or if it might be the end of their ride also, and so they've held on, but they need to have a safe way to get off of the animal, and the pickup men are there to help them get off of the animal also. And so cowboys and cowgirls know that the pickup men are in the arena to help them. And nobody ever, a cowgirl or a cowboy, are ever afraid to reach out to the pickup man for help. And so that's why, and Cheyenne Frontier Days, being the world's largest outdoor rodeo, decided to take suicide prevention awareness, utilizing the pickup man and the Yellow Feather campaign to get that message out. Yellow obviously being the color of suicide prevention, and then the pickup man because everybody needs a pickup man at some point in life, or can be a pickup man for somebody in need.
Awesome. Thanks for explaining that. So I've been to a few rodeos. This summer we went to Cheyenne Frontier Rodeo because we live in Denver and we love kind of the whole Western. It's really popular right now. There's a kind of resurgence in rodeos, which is super cool. So the pickup man generally are the two individuals on the horses that are like helping. Okay.
And they have the big CFD chaps on so that everybody knows who they are.
Okay. So I would imagine, I don't know if this is a fair assumption to make, but in the rodeo arena, and bigger than just the true arena that we see as spectators, but just the rodeo way of life, cowboys, cowgirls, that reaching out for mental health help has some stigma surrounding it. Is that a fair assumption to make?
Yes, it is a fair assumption. Because, and it particularly in the West, everybody is seen to be, you have to be hardcore, you have to learn how to pick yourself up, pull your bootstraps up kind of thing. And so our population that we deal with, cowboys, cowgirls, are sometimes reluctant to not abide by the code of the West, which is, pick yourself up, put on your big boots kind of thing and move on. And so we really wanted that message to say, it's okay. You reach out to the pickup man in the arena when you're in need. It's just as okay to reach out to somebody when you're having a little issue with, life, to help you out. So, it's a very familiar bridge, for the cowgirls and cowboys to see. And, oh, by the way, understand it's okay to reach out to somebody when you need a little help.
Yeah. How long has the Cheyenne Frontier Days been doing this campaign?
We have been doing it for 3 years now. Garth Brooks actually helped us kick off the Pickup Man campaign. He did a great video for us about, the Western lifestyle, and that sometimes you just can't, you have to reach out somebody. And he did it's a beautiful video. I mean, literally every time I watch it, it makes me cry.
Can I watch it? Where is it available?
You can actually YouTube it and look at it. Garth Brooks, Yellow Feather, Cheyenne Frontier Days. You put all those words in it and you'll get it. Because I have to do that all the time because I don't have it saved. But And I think you can go onto the CFD Foundation website. You might be able to get to it there too. So, but anyway, so Garth helped us kick that off. And that was the year of the 125th Cheyenne Frontier Days. And so it was actually, yeah, that was right, because he came in for the 125th. He likes to get his belt buckles for those big years.
Cool.
But so we've been doing it now for 3 years and have had tremendous success at right before show, which is the last full week of July. We reach out to all of our business owners in Cheyenne and say, hey, you want to be a part of the Pickup Man campaign? And so we give them a placard that can hold the feathers and some information that it helps explain what the Pickup Man campaign is, so that their employees know what it's all about. And our guests to Cheyenne can pick up a free yellow feather, and stick it in their hat. And know that the yellow feather means that you're willing to be a pickup man to somebody else, or that you'll reach out if you need help.
That's cool. That's super cool. And I read, this is a nice quote. It says, "Dear 2024 graduates, congratulations on the achievement of the first of many of life's milestones. Life is full of hills and valleys of milestones you will encounter. Let this yellow feather be a reminder that there are people in your life there for you. Vow today that you will be a pickup man for someone in your life, or that you will reach out to someone when you need a pickup man, because we all need a little help at times. Tape this feather to your mirror, put it in your car cup holder, or wherever you will see this reminder, and live your best life."
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. We have 3 high schools in Cheyenne, and all of them walk across the big stage at Cheyenne Frontier Days, where people like Garth Brooks perform, to pick up their diplomas. And so, and they do a rehearsal. And so at their rehearsal, we gave them all yellow feathers and that card this year to say, hey, life is tough, and you're gonna need this reminder going forward. But congratulations.
Yeah. You living and working in Cheyenne, do you feel like the community, like supports the yellow feather, and like has it over the last couple years been more well embraced?
Oh, definitely. We've worked with several other entities also. Even the hospital. I tried to get them to like just print little stickers that everybody could put on their badges, but they had some other things that they wanted to do. But we've reached out to the Wyoming General Contractors Association, and because their group of people are guys, who think that they have to be tough and all those kinds of things. And hard hats are hard things to put feathers in. So we printed yellow feathers on acrylic plastic that they could stick onto their hard hats, so that they would get that message also to be a pickup man, or to reach out if you're in need of being a pickup man. And we've done that for there's one other organization that we've been working with. The community colleges in Wyoming. We've reached out to them and provided them yellow feathers also, because especially that bridge. One of the gals that was on our board, both on the CFD Inc. board and then on the foundation board also, her son committed suicide right after, about 2 months into his college career, and super, super hard. And so she's been working also to help reach out to high school graduates and say, hey, you're headed into a tough time, and you need to realize that it's, you're going to need some help, and you need to make sure that you feel confident to reach out to your mom or your dad or a friend or whoever, to make sure that you get yourself through all of that.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 really important populations. One, construction. Sadly, the suicide rates of the construction industry, like across our nation, are really, really high. And then, of course, young people, like, yeah, the stresses of today, of going to college, and are you picking the right career path? How am I going to pay for this? Just pressure, pressure, pressure.
Yes.
We all need help. We all need that pickup man. So you also work as an RN at your community hospital.
Yes. I do. And, we call them SI, suicidal ideation patients on the floor. And, you know, it, you just have to help them, with that also, that there's this, nothing is forever. And, but death is, and so you cannot use that, that as an opportunity to deal with a broken relationship or, stress or whatever. And, so we try very hard, at a global level at the hospital to get the resources to those SI people so that they can, go on with life and, find that there's other means to deal with the stressors of life than what they were contemplating.
Do you know if your emergency room like has a screening for like teenagers that come in? Is
Oh yeah.
everybody screened?
Yes. Oh, definitely. And yeah, and then if they pop on, however, I can't remember what number of questions, the computer takes care of that, but,
I think there's 5 questions.
right,
Yep.
exactly. It's like, oh yeah, then they, they're going into the deeper dive of like, okay, what, do you have a plan? All of those types of things. Or if they've already tried and they're basically being, dealt with medically to help them get better from what they try, as, in an attempt, then, then they go a different route in the hospital too. So
If a young person comes in with suicidal ideation or with an attempt, um, do they get much treatment when they're in the ER, or do they get admitted? I'm sure this is not, it's hospital by hospital, region by region, but like, what's your like professional opinion from that? Because I think there's a lot of young people end up in the emergency room, and it used to be a place where treatment was started, and I don't know if it is that way anymore.
yeah, actually they do.
Good.
Especially if it's a young person, they do, they get taken to another special area, and that, the behavioral health people, are there instantaneously. And in fact, I have a friend who she wasn't so much suicidal, but something really wrong was going on with her mentally. And I was trying to help her get it into, and I was shocked at just, because she wasn't SI, she was, but trying to get her to into a, somebody that would help her with that. It was like a 9-month waiting list. I was like,
Oh, what a
oh my
shame.
goodness, this is insane. And so I do feel, just, I can only speak for Cheyenne, because that's all I have the knowledge of. But we're deeply in need of having more people available to us, to help with that kind of situation. But I do have to commend Cheyenne. We now have a clinic that is a 24-hour clinic that is dedicated just to mental health, and that you can go in there, no appointment necessary, to say, hey, I'm having some major issues, and you're going to get seen. So I'm
24
very,
hours. That's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, it
There's
is.
there's a bigger need, and that's some of that, like the research shows it's because more people know that they need the help, which is a really good thing, but there's going to be like a period of a backlog before we kind of level out the
Right.
appropriate care.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And,
How
and it's the time, I don't know. I mean, granted, I was not as aware of all of this even 10 years ago, but it does seem that it just has escalated exponentially as a crisis for us in America, honestly.
the statistics would say, yes, you are absolutely right. Suicide statistics in some demographics are starting to level out, which is a really, really good thing. At the beginning of COVID, there was like predictions that suicide rates would absolutely escalate, and they really didn't. Youth in the state of Colorado, and Colorado being very, similar to Wyoming, between 2015 and 2019, our youth suicide rate, so that's the age group of 12 to 24,
Mhm.
they more than doubled in the state of Colorado. So we have a long ways to go, I think, but I think we're making progress from campaigns like the Pickup Man, from the Yellow Ribbon, from just the messaging that we're doing. what is the state of Wyoming overall? Do you ever see messaging from like, what we call like a public service campaign?
I I personally haven't, but I know that I haven't really. I My schedule is so crazy busy. The only thing I ever get to see is what I search out. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
so.
Oh, well, how can we like continue to encourage people to be a pickup man? Like, do you have an example of someone in the rodeo or just personally as an RN in your life? Like, what else can we do as a society and community?
Well, it's a function of, probably the biggest thing is that people are afraid to ask. If they see a friend that is down in the dumps or is starting to give things away, or, gives you a hug that seems just two seconds longer than it should have been, those are kind of signs of people that are in crisis. And my neighbor across the street from where I live, she's an EMT, which is obviously another big area that has issues. And she had a fellow EMT guy that she said the last time she saw him, he held on to her just a little bit too long. And it's only in retrospect did she realize what that signal was. And he ended up successfully killing himself, and she was devastated, absolutely devastated. And so, those are signs. And then if you see one of those signs, then the first thing you need to say is, are you contemplating suicide? And if they happen to say yes, and then ask, do you have a plan? Because if they do have a plan, they will probably let you know that. And, that's then by, all hands on deck, help. Get whatever you need to do done, because that person is a huge opportunity for succeeding.
And for
So,
getting some help too. If you
yes,
can ask someone that question directly, you get a positive, which isn't going to happen very often. More often is going to happen is they're just going to tell you they're in a really crappy spot and they
right,
don't know what to do. They're probably not going to kill themselves, but they're just in that low, which happens.
yes.
Yeah, it's tough. There's still, I think, I know I'm 51, that myth that you can't ask that question directly.
Right, right. Because it's the people think it's like, oh, I don't want to put an idea in their head. No, they already have the idea. You just need to get it out in the open so that you can do something about it.
Yeah. So there's this program called QPR, if you're
Yep.
familiar with, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the question, just like CPR,
Right.
ask the question directly. I
Yes.
talk to more middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I just say, like, what feels better in life than to be cared for? And like, that's sometimes what we're lacking in society. We feel alone so much of the time. Like, I don't want to trust someone. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be honest with how I
Right.
feel about myself.
Well, and that's what Cheyenne Frontier Days is committed to, the suicide prevention awareness message. And so every single person on our staff has been QPR trained.
Awesome. That's a kudos to
Mm.
Cheyenne Frontier Days. That's fantastic. Because those people live and work in your community the other 300 and some 50
Yeah.
days a year. So they're out there. That's fantastic. I wish more organizations would take that time. QPR is considered gatekeeper training, and we need gatekeepers in every part of
Exactly.
society.
Yep. I agree. And it's not hard, and you don't and it helps you get over that hump of like, oh, I don't want to interfere. It's like, yes, on this one you need to interfere.
Yeah. Oh, well, the rodeo and the Wild West, that's what some of the state actually claims of like why Colorado has some of the higher suicide rates is just because Colorado is really a very rural state. It's really only Denver and Colorado Springs that are kind of more metropolitan.
Right.
And they just like say, well, it's just the way of the West. And it's really not okay. I think we
No, no. I mean, you don't need to be gosh darn independent all the time.
Gosh darn independent. Yeah. Well, what else for suicide prevention? This work in the Cheyenne Frontier Days has been like rewarding for you.
It
You've
has,
stuck with it.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, because honestly, if you start talking with people about things, almost everybody has been touched by suicide. And for instance, I've been touched by suicide. My husband and I were diagnosed with cancer within 6 months of each other. His was brain cancer, so his was pretty bad. And he was a 20-year-old or 20-year veteran of the Army, and, very independent. He was a lieutenant colonel. I mean, like pick yourself up by the bootstraps kind of thing. And after 3 craniotomies, obviously he wasn't the same person he was prior to that. But I was contemplating, and because of our diagnosis, it was difficult for me to travel as much as I did, because that was my previous job. I was a marketing vice president for Taco John's franchise fast food company, and I traveled a lot. But then with me being sick and with him being sick, it was difficult. And and we were doing this deep dive into medicine, and I was like, you know what? I could be a nurse. And so he's like, yeah, he was good at that. And I had a really bad day one day at Taco John's, and I came home that night. It was on a Monday night, and I told my husband, I said, look, I'm not entirely sure what the timing of it is, but I promise you that I'm going to go to nursing school and become a nurse. And he shot himself the next morning, because I
Oh,
think he just felt like I was going to be okay, and he needed to exit. And, I knew he was feeling badly, and I had talked with his oncologist. It was the same oncologist I had. And, and said, hey, he's depressed about all of this. He was a pilot. He built his own airplane in the garage. After his first craniotomy, he couldn't even figure out how to take his medications, and here he built his own airplane and flew it, and then when he decided to sell his plane, I knew that was a big sign too. I was like, I wanted him to keep the plane, because I knew that he would want to fly it again, types of, and he's, so I knew there was all of those signs, but I wasn't as trained in, prevention awareness at that point in my life. And, sure enough, that it happened, almost
I'm
textbook.
sorry.
It happens.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you have to pay attention to those signs, and you have to continue to fight for the person, and get them the resources that they need. And so it's so important. I mean, that's what I feel passionate about that, and obviously for personal reasons, but even, as from a, doing what I do with the Yellow Feather Pickup Man campaign too. I mean, I know, you walk the walk and talk the talk. So
Mm. I hope you give yourself grace.
yeah, well, I do. And, I mean, it is, I mean, it's hard, but at some point too, it's just like, I did what I could, and I really didn't expect it like that. Or that's, or, I mean, it shocked me, because I mean, I didn't even know how it all happened, to be honest with you. I just knew that he hadn't come up. I always got up early, and I'd be upstairs getting dressed, and he always would come up about the same time. It's like, where is he? And then I went downstairs, and there it was. So
Mm.
I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, it's tough, but you also
It's
have to
very
just,
tough.
yeah. So
I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that. And my heart
thanks.
goes out
Sorry.
to you. We
Hmm.
are lost survivors together.
Hmm.
Like so many people who lose someone to suicide, they'll say that there wasn't any signs. And like, I've said that about Robbie, that there wasn't any signs. The signs are very, very subtle. Like
Yeah.
most people do give a sign, but they're just very, very subtle. And a person they test the water just a tiny little bit.
Hmm.
It's tough. It's not, I don't know.
You don't want
There's
to
not an
believe
easy
that that's
answer.
going. Yeah, you don't want to believe that's where this is headed. You just because you
Right.
love that person, and so yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Goodness. I don't know. I always say that suicide's preventable because mental illness is treatable. Sometimes mental illness is very, very acute, and sometimes it's more chronic. And we just kind of live in this world where we don't want to treat mental illness. We only want to treat physical illness. And
Mm-hmm.
treating physical illness comes with mental illness, as you just showed us. Like it's not easy. But now you're a
No.
nurse helping a lot of other people.
Well, and I mean, and life has a way of teaching you things. One of the things that I get as a nurse is we have a lot of people who deal with mental illness by drinking, and they don't think that's going to kill them, but it does. you know, so in fact, and not to make this all about me because but my brother killed himself by drinking himself to death. He told me I am too weak to live and I am too weak to kill myself. And so he just drank himself to death. And I tell my detoxers, this can kill you. No, it can't. Yes, it can. And and I had one patient. I had told him the whole story about my brother, and he didn't believe me. And I said, "You are so close. You are so close." And he was back in within 2 months, and I went in to see him, and I said, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "They tell me I'm going to die." And I was like, "I think you and I had this conversation." And he's like, "I know, but nobody gets that part of it, And it's like, oh my goodness. So
I don't know very much about that correlation between substance use and mental illness. I need to discover that more, or do more research into it, because certainly there's very much a correlation.
Yep. Oh, there is. And alcohol, because it is a depressant anyway, is obviously not the the cure for that part of the problem. So
Not the coping mechanism that a
no,
person should be reaching for.
not at all. So yeah.
Mm, goodness. Well, I thank you for the work that you do daily. Look forward to another good season of the rodeo. I would imagine you're already headed in that direction, even though it's only October and that
Right.
won't be till July.
355 days out of the year we're working towards show. So and then we have 10 days of show and then we're back to working towards show again.
It's a really good one, though. I really recommend to our listeners, if you can make it up to Cheyenne,
Yes.
please do so. And check out the Pickup Man campaign and the Yellow Ribbon Project. Renee, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And to our listeners, be sure to tune into our next episode. And remember to hold on. Pain ends. Thanks, Renee.